I consider they should prepare for Bankrupt. No, maybe I'm not kidding. I consider you will be hit by the wave for sure, because this is a technology that is here to stay. It's not just only a hype. It's not like NFTs. No. This is something relevant for humanity. If you don't adopt it and you have been static, it's like if you are not literally moving forward, and it's probably like you are moving backwards, like you are not advancing. Imagine that your company is output is mainly based on language, for example, text, and you are not implementing AI. It's most likely that your company will have a lot of trouble in 2-3 years from now. Even now, it's probably that you already have company. So I think that you really need to speed up now from an investment perspective in finding solutions and adopting the technology in order to survive and really surf the wave. You know, the hell is for static people. You know, you cannot just stay and look at what is happening around. You really need to take decisions and adopt it, even in the surface level. You will be surprised for the multiple things that you can unlock. I really invite you to do it. Find people that can help you to do that transition, even if it's not a big transition, even if it's just like a small tweaks of your operations. That's fine. You will see that starting with it is essential, and you will unlock a lot of value. If not, I will say be prepared for Bankrupt. I know it sounds fatalist, but...
Hello, Leo.
Hello, Justin. Welcome. Thank you very much. And big greetings for all your audience. And yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah, great. I'm very honored that you're here as a guest. And this is going to help a lot of my audience and also hopefully your audience as well, if you wanted to invite them into this podcast. So maybe we could start about, and I'm very interested about the way you do your presentations and how AI has evolved and how you have used those case studies, applications, and probably let's start with about your journey. Maybe we can start from there, and we will also know more about you.
Yep.
And why did you jump into AI?
Yeah. Well, I have been working in artificial intelligence since, I would say, 6-7 years ago. Yeah, before GPT, because people remember GPT, like I think 3.5 was the moment in which everybody was using artificial intelligence. But before that, AI was already there, you know, like the classical neural networks or machine learning, classical stuff that nobody remembers today. I was working in that moment doing diagnostics for a company that is called Archangel AI in Montreal, Canada. So that was my first, let's say, interaction with artificial intelligence in business applications. So it was neural networks that were capable of detecting diseases, like somehow like a diagnostic, but we didn't call it diagnostic in that time. And then I wanted to complement all that knowledge, and I completed a master in data science in Madrid, in a school that is called the Valley Business School. And in that moment, just after I graduated, GPT did the boom. And now everybody talks and knows exactly what artificial intelligence is, especially because generative AI is so powerful. But as I mentioned before, it's a different kind of artificial intelligence, but AI has been always there. Now I am working in a company that is called Board of Innovation. It's a consulting firm that works with like the big ones, big corporates, and we support them in the adoption of artificial intelligence in many parts of the work stream. And I am in the artificial intelligence and insights team in this moment, working there and developing multiple AI products for our clients. That's, long story short, my background and story.
Wow, you were actually on the right track. You're at the right place at the right time. And well, I know that board of innovations is really impressive. They gather all the experts, the leaders inside the ecosystem, and they have also served a lot of great events. Which is one of which I found you was the autonomous conference, which was also very impressive, of a very compact webinar, which like every expert speaker would just have a 20-minute talk, and they can compress it in a very much high value talk per 20 minutes. So that was very impressive, and I'm glad that I attended that. Then I did found you which you were one of the presentations that stand out during that conference. So, by the way, for you, what is the biggest shift you've seen in businesses that have embraced AI versus those who have resisted it?
Yeah. I have to be honest. I will say that in the big ones, like in the big fishes in the market, there is not a lot of resistance at the moment. So big corporates, for example, they are really aware of the implications of not adopting AI. There are multiple levels of adoption of AI. So you have people that, for example, use GPT and write some emails using GPT, and then you have some others that have put AI into the core of their business, literally. So they are investing in creating IT environments, training, even or for example, creating fine tuning of systems they have using GPT or any other models with an open API. So I will say that in the big leagues, the resistance is not something I have seen so far. They are really conscious of yeah, what are the implications of not adopting AI. But it's true that there are certain industries where they are dependent of, let's say, human accuracy, and they are a little bit more resistant to the adoption. I will say the best example sometimes is, for example, healthcare related things, for example, where users want to be 100% accurate, that, for example, a diagnosis is done by a human and not an artificial intelligence, because there are users that don't trust it that much. But in those aspects, I will say that the big difference, we will see it in the coming, like in the midterm, because you will see that race of users that have adopted AI versus those that have not. I will say that the long impact, it will be really visible. In this moment, I will say that there is enough space for other companies that do not adopt it to play and to survive. But in the long term, I'm sure there will not be that case. So for the big ones, again, I have not seen a lot of resistance. For those that I have seen resistance, it's probably more in let's say small companies, mid companies. But at the moment, the big, like those that move the economy, they are already really aware of AI implications.
Wonderful. And if you don't mind, just for our audience, maybe you could share, like, if it's allowed to share some of the brand names so that we will have some context about what is big players and what are the small players to you, so that we will also understand the context.
Yeah. Well, I will say that, like, for example, the top 500 companies, so everything that you will find in an SAP 500 index, something like that, that's like the big corporates.
Mm-hmm.
So we are talking about Microsoft, Apple, Google, or even like food and beverage products like Coca-Cola, Nestle, all of them, they already have IT departments that are playing a big role with artificial intelligence, and they have changed multiple of their IT systems to incorporate artificial intelligence. So that's, let's say, like the big leagues. Mid companies will be more medium-sized companies, probably more startups or scale-ups, or even companies that have probably more than 500 employees, for example, or that has an important level of revenue, but not at the level of a Nestle, for example. And yeah, that will be like the benchmark of what I mean when saying big leagues.
Wow. Okay, that's super clear, and thank you for bringing us there. And so I heard a lot of brands that are even non-tech companies that are also adopting and embracing AI, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that is quite surprising and impressive, because in the general public, a lot of non-tech companies tend to be the last one to adopt, right? They are the ones who kind of, okay, let me see what is the market going, what's the direction, and if it's gonna work, then okay, I will start adopting. So that's kind of like the general public right now, but of course you're in the deeper end of the ocean, which is an advantage. So maybe in your opinion, like, what industries or businesses are at a high risk of, I would say, obsolescence, something like they will become obsolete because they
Mm.
adopted AI early?
Yeah. That's
or
a
do
really good. Yeah, it's
that,
an excellent question, and I think it's really
Mhm.
important for the market in general because that will happen for sure. I think the people that believe that there will not be impacts in human resources, for example, in a company because of AI, they're really mistaken. I think we need to divide it in when. So, for example, the short term, I will say that everything that is language based, I will give a simple example of what I mean is, for example, translation services, they are really in risk because an LLM, which stands for large language model, it's precisely that language. So we hack it, the language. Those models are really well off in performing language task, like everything that is based on text. It's an output that is super easy to generate nowadays with the models that we already have. So a model like GPT-4o, for example, is already doing that, and you can translate many things with a really high level of accuracy using a large language model available, and some even that are for free. So in the short term, you will see that that's for sure an implication. So everything that is text based in the business core output, for example, consulting services, somehow it's similar because in the old times, the good storytelling was something that I don't know, McKinsey was able to do the big consulting. But nowadays, you can just prompt like change this and adopt it in a storytelling way, and you will have it quite easily. So if there is a company that the output is related to language, just to language at the moment, I will say that they're in a really risk if they are not adopting AI. But you need to understand the level of implications because, for example, diagnosis, just like a simple like triangulation, if a person has a specific disease that is a conversational triage, that can also be replaced by artificial intelligence. But I will say that that's more in a midterm because that has still a lot of human intervention in the process, in the legal process, let's say. But everything that is language based, I will say that's the riskiest obsolescence. Yeah,
it will
companies
it
that
will
could fall into that. Yeah.
yes, that's pretty powerful because a lot of, as you said, text base is easily to be replicated, easily to be, probably the competition is quite quite wide and quite high.
Mhm.
And what about, if we were to talk about, if we can share an example about a business that outspaced competitors simply because they adopted AI early, if you have any experience.
I cannot share names. I have one that is recent that I consider is pretty good. And it's a really good example. Again, with diagnostics. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Genesis has an important trend of auto-diagnosis in social media and internet. Like it's a really big one. So they prefer to search for the symptoms they have online, including TikTok, for example, or Instagram or any other social media, than going to a specialist. Which is interesting because there are so many applications of these conversational models to capture specific symptoms and correlate them with diseases. So for that specific market, it makes a lot of sense to invest and to try to understand if it is possible to do a different healthcare experience for that segment that is already using internet and technology to do diagnosis compared to another segment of the population. So I cannot share the specific details of the companies, but we have been playing in that ecosystem, and I have seen an important attraction of how to capture and captive that market in terms of diagnostics, for example. And that sometimes for the healthcare industry and pharmaceutics is super important. So we have been playing a lot doing social listening, for example, capturing those signals and then convert them into specific pipelines for diagnostics in that segment. I consider that in the long term, if the company I am referring to really tackle that design, like experience design, I think they will be owners of the market, because that's how the market naturally and organically behave. And I consider that like a big difference of a company that is applying artificial intelligence to improve the journey of the users versus one that is not doing anything. In the long term, we will see the difference because someone like those that are already applying it will definitely have the market. They will have designed a better experience based on what the users are doing. and definitely generations to come will be more and more open to using Gen AI in every aspect. Education, I have seen in education a lot of really really good implementations of AI. So again, it really depends on the industry. I think those, like that example is really good, and because it's a project that I have been working recently, and I consider is good because I have seen the results. But in any industry, I'm sure you will find examples like that. Sorry that I cannot share a lot of details, but
You don't need to share. I mean, that's something private and confidential. So that's. I mean, what you have shared. The important thing about when you shared an example, or it could be a business. I think, in my opinion, the reason why we have this podcast is for the viewers, for the listeners to learn from your expertise, from your experience, and of course, that's where the direction that they will avoid mistakes. They will also start to think and start building. It could be if they're a startup, maybe they will start building a new business model, a product, a solution.
yeah,
So I hope that that's where we're driving, and we wanted to make sure that we can keep the confidential information because that's not important
thanks.
for our audience. But of course, just to also get a context about in every sharing, so I'll just jump in and make sure that it will be more understandable for the audience and also for your audience as well. So because AI could be as simple as, it's just a prompt away, but we do also have a lot of perceptions which may be a different perceptions for everyone. So we just want to make sure that we're aligned. And let's just say we go back to, you mentioned about some examples of how they can outpace their competitors. What's your opinion about, could it also be applied to any size of the industry? Because I heard that if for enterprise versus a medium or a small businesses, would that be something that is still fair in the playing field, in the battlefield, in terms of the business world? What's your take on that?
That's an important question because one thing is the generation of AI and the other thing is the usage of AI. So using AI, I think it's now in hands of everybody in the world. Like if you have access to a computer, you can use AI. Before yeah, before OpenAI, to be honest, that was not possible. You needed to train a neural network, have a little bit of Python knowledge, understand like it was difficult, but they really improved the experience of how to use AI, and now it's available. And not only them, Anthropic, like all the big Gen AI generators, let's say. Yeah, but it's true that creating generative AI requires a lot of computational power, requires a lot of, which basically means money, requires a lot of data, but massive amounts of data, and requires a technical expertise that in this moment is really rare in the world. Like generative AI engineer in this moment is probably, yeah. So the generation is one thing, like creating generative AI is one thing. I wouldn't say that is solely dedicated for the big ones, but it seems that they have the advantage to have it because they have resources and they have data. If you compare that to a middle or a small company, probably you are more in the leagues of adopting Gen AI. I'm sure that in the midterm, governments will play a role. Governments and potentially open source models will play a big role in giving more space to the small and medium sized companies to generate and to play with the creation of artificial intelligence. But with at the moment, what I have seen so far is that it's more a term like something about applying it. But that still represents a lot of opportunities for the mid and short companies. I don't know if I answer your question, but it's an important implication because that's what happened with DeepSeek a few weeks ago. You know that they demonstrated that it's possible to train a model with less money, but I don't remember the exact figure, but it was like 5 million, something like that. The training of a model, that's still a lot of money, even if it's just like 10% of what OpenAI claimed to do before. So in this moment, to be honest, it seems to be in the hands, like the generation. The applications, I think everybody can use it at the moment. And there are so many parts of your business model that you can tweak and modify using generative AI, and that will generate a lot of value for your market and for your customers without the need of creating AI. So and every day there are new products, so you can fine tune your own models, you can generate agents, you can automate a specific process using multiple LLMs. I will say there are so many things that you can do being in this, if you are a smaller and mid-sized company. But it's true that at the moment it seems that the generation of AI, it requires big sources.
Yeah, definitely. That's a given. Big resources, sources, data, right? That big,
Mhm.
I would say data is the biggest leverage for the enterprise, because they have established their business, and it's not even just 1 year, it's like decades
Yeah.
of building that business. So data probably is an advantage. And that's a good point that you mentioned about different, I would say, different size of the company, whether if it's medium enterprise or small, their objective would be different. Like as you mentioned, if it's a medium, maybe they're adopting, or maybe small as well. They're adopting, they're creating, and at the same time for enterprise, they're leveraging, they're enhancing into whatever AI or generative AI can do right now. And that's a very interesting road to talk about. And maybe we can go a little bit on the side as well, like, because like sometimes entrepreneurs, whether whatever the size of the company, they have this mental roadblocks. And in your experience, probably you have met quite a few bunch. What are the biggest mental roadblocks that you notice entrepreneurs have about AI, and like how can they shift their mindset to embrace it? So
Are working in the industry, one of the keywords that appear the most is hallucination is the easy way to destroy any AI service at the moment. Because, like, if you, for example, want to apply artificial intelligence in your services, let's say in your customer success measures or in your customer experience or whatever, the problem for you probably will be that the AI hallucinates and gives to your customer information that is not true. So and it's, I mean, it's a real risk that could happen for sure. And the model, they try to please you sometimes. So if you don't put limits, the models will probably give you information that is pleasant but it's not true, because there is like a limited of true in the world. So at the moment, the fear that I have seen the most is trustness in AI, and it's a fair trust. Sorry, it's a fair fear. It's absolutely normal that you don't want to put into your system something that is not 100% accurate, but it's true that you need to measure that accuracy scientifically. It's not only a decision that you can take now, like I don't trust it, because it's an AI model, and AI models are based on statistics and processes, prompts, systems that you can measure, and then you should understand if it's not accurate, what is not accurate, and what can you do to modify the accuracy of the models. So in the old times of neural networks, for example, if you reach an 85% of accuracy, that was a big deal. 85%. Nowadays, if GPT gives you a prompt that seems beautiful but it fails 1%, you blame it. It's like, this is not working. AI sucks. AI is the worst thing that you can apply ever. So we have become really, really obsessed in the accuracy, because it's fair, because we want to put it in the center of our business proposition, for example. But it's true that it's a process, because the accuracy is not something that you can guarantee since the beginning, but it's something that you will reach if you learn how to use it, if you fine tune the models, if you apply good prompt engineering system, if you give good data. Everything that regard would definitely improve the accuracy of the models. So far, that's the one that I have seen like the big deal. I will say, for example, synthetic in market research nowadays, synthetic data, for example, is really famous. Like everything's related to synthetic users. And it makes sense, because probably will replace surveys, for example. If that's the case, nobody trusted. Nobody really believed that that's true. Nobody really believed that you can simulate a survey of an user scoring 1 to 5 for a product that you designed, for example, using synthetic usage. And but nobody tells you scientifically why you don't trust it, because nobody is used to measure the accuracy with scientific practices. But I will say that the big one is the trust. I'm absolutely sure that with the new models, for example, when GPT 4.5, but especially 5 come to the market, we see important changes of the accuracy. The adoption of the market will be heavy in that regard. It's similar to what we have seen with O1 at the moment, for example, that people trusted quite a lot compared to 3.5. And that's like an important iteration of the models. And every model that gets released to the market improves really the trusting in AI. So I will definitely see in the future that disappearing. Did I answer your question? In terms
Yeah,
of
that's very valuable because a lot of one of the fears, yes, hallucination. I would agree. I think mental blocks, roadblocks would be. I'm going deeper into AI. I'm enjoying. I'm prompting. I'm using this to my business, and the next thing you know, you end up finding out that accuracy wasn't so high, and our level of accuracy expectation has really gone up because of generative AI. And that is an eye opener, even for me, because I do realize that yeah, we do have hallucinations, and sometimes we tend to either, even for O1 models, sometimes there's still a disclaimer that AI will still have mistakes, right? And I mean that's technology. I mean even humans would have mistakes as well. So
exactly.
so I would say, as you said, 99% of accuracy. That would be considered as good as the bigger scheme of things. But of course, for us, we want to be competitive. We want to be the best of the best, and that's how any company or any entrepreneur would deal with anything. Yes,
Yeah.
I can't wait for the 5.0 to be coming out. As you
Yeah,
mentioned that
yeah.
too.
It
So
seems to be a big deal. Yeah.
it seems to be. It seems to be. It's bringing up the hype even now. So what about if, let's say, we talk about, because AI is not just about automation. It's about rethinking like the business models. Like if you have an existing business models, maybe you wanted to either revamp, enhance, or totally, you know, overhaul the whole thing, and really change the business model, right? For you to adopt.
Yeah.
How do you see AI reshaping industries beyond just efficiency, also productivity, and I think the biggest thing is also how to be unique as well.
No, you're absolutely right. Automation seems to be something from the, I don't know, 2010. We have been talking about automation since when? 2008. It's the HubSpot claim since, I don't know. It is something that people usually tend to go to automation with things in AI. But automation is something that I think we already master somehow in many parts. There are so many pipelines that perform automation with AI in a really high level that I'm not sure if automation is really the keyword we should use of AI. I think it's an old thinking applied to a new technology. It's like if you were trying to use television to play radio. It's really. I think this moment is a really call for AI innovators to really design new ways of how to apply the services or products or deliver them in a really good way. And I think that's limited for real innovators. I think that's like the key, because everybody can automate and create an agent, for example, to write emails. So if you are doing that and applying that for artificial intelligence, you're a good adopter, that's for sure. But you probably are not taking the real advantage of redesigning and shaping with a technology that is so powerful. You are just grasping the surface. You are just thinking the easy automation part, and that probably will be like missing a big opportunity. And I consider, again, it's a call for innovators to really design the new world with a technology that, like in the old times, like internet, when it came, we really needed to design a new world. So we are now in this moment, and I think we will see real innovators in the coming years that will teach us exactly what I mean, and we'll use automation probably as a something we learned in 2010, but not something that is now finally possible, because the possibilities we have now, it's beyond that. So we now, for example, have brains that are connected to other brains. For example, the application that this technology has for smart cities, for example, and connecting and creating brains for the cities seems to be much more interesting than just automating a report, for example. It's that adoption of the technology from an innovative mindset is so important. And to be honest, I think it's rare because there is a lot of hype in this technology, but there are so few innovation applied, to the real innovation of this technology. And I consider it's really rare. Like nowadays, if you take a business canvas and you don't have GPT on it, or OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever you want, what exactly is going on? You have a technology that is available for you to do whatever. That for sure should be one part of your canvas, whatever it is. Of course, if it's related to the value proposition, that will be more interesting because probably you are designing something new and not only automating. But again, it really depends on the level of adoption that you want to have and the involvement. But we will see the real innovators coming out in the coming years.
Yeah, and I'm excited about what you just shared. Like, especially when, for me, I'm very excited at how innovators build businesses, like unique businesses. It's like challenging the norm, challenging what is out there, and build something like brand new, something like a blue ocean strategy business model, which provides a different set of solutions versus what is existing now. And I think that's the power of AI that I can see for those who are innovators, who are visionaries as well. So visionaries can also partner with innovators to build something which is far beyond and what we have right now. And yeah, you're right. As you said, automation is probably a few years ago is already there. Is we're at the stage now where the automation is just scratching the surface, right?
Yeah, no.
And the market right now, the thing about the market is some people will get the attention of automation because it's I think it's the messaging in the market of you can take back your time. You can take back your time. And I think now the time is the most valuable asset of anyone, right? So I
Yeah.
think the automation kind of really talked about that message. And that is kind of like what the market is looking for right now. But it's a different spectrum. So it depends on where you are heading and what are the, I would say, the gray area that nobody can see, which that is a unique ability, which I think you have that too. And I'm grateful that you've shared that idea. So so what about if some businesses would hesitate due to like cost concerns? How should they reframe AI adaptation or adoption AI adoption as an investment, not an expense? Because I'm sure like you have dealt with enterprise, you have dealt with medium, and maybe some small. And do you still get this kind of resistance or objection?
Yeah, it's a big question because again, it's tricky when you compare the generation of AI, like creating AI versus adoption. Adoption again is, I don't consider it's expensive compared to the value that generates. Creation is expensive for sure. Definitely compared to the value that generates, probably not that much. But it's true that it has like an important component that you need those sources if you want to do it. Recently, I wrote a sentence that it was something like, I prefer go bankrupt than not surfing the AI wave, which I consider that for some companies it's really true. If it's what we were discussing before. For example, imagine that your company is output is mainly based on language, for example, text, for example, and you are not implementing AI. It's most likely that your company will have a lot of trouble in 2-3 years from now. Even now, it's probably that you already have companies. So I think that you really need to speed up now from an investment perspective in finding solutions and adopting the technology in order to survive and really surf the wave. Otherwise, it's for sure that you will face trouble. So it's not even part of like a strategy, a design, like let's explore if we want to do it. It's a must. For so many industries, it's nowadays a must. And depending of the level of implication, it will be expensive. But if you are, for example, adopting just the easy layers of AI, that you can do a lot of things just with the first layers of AI, you will see a lot of changes in your services quite fast. So I think the question already gives you the answer, which is consider it as an investment and to make your business future proof, because future, and I will say even present nowadays, will for sure implicate uh, those changes that you need to adopt now. If you don't do it, prepare. Be ready for turbulence. Yeah.
Yes, I like that surfing the AI wave. Yes, it's true. It's that visual or picture of surfing the AI wave is really practical. And as we said, right, the business right now, as we speak, like probably the smart ones has not just adopted AI, but they have already been building and enhancing and modifying their business into a future-proof business.
Yeah.
And those are great examples to model as well. And yes, there are investments we can consider it as investment. And nowadays there's a lot of tools right now, and there's also a lot of distractions. Like as you know, like there are probably in every week I have subscribed to so many newsletters, and there's so many new tools. Like every week there's like, I don't know, maybe hundreds of tools or 50 of
Yeah.
tools, and these are like new names. It's not like
Yeah.
so. In your opinion, like how would you kind of sift and sort like which one are the things that are something that is relevant to you, or something that really would be useful as an investment? Because sometimes we are having this shiny object syndrome that, oh, we're chasing this. And yes, a lot of entrepreneurs, most of the entrepreneurs would have a mindset of investing, trying to trial and
Yeah.
error, right? But there's also a new sense of, will this be an expense because this is actually like a flop, a flop. It's not something that I can use. It's maybe this tool A would probably have this, and tool B would probably have just one extra feature, which I may or may not need, and maybe it's similar pricing, but you will end up also using multiple because you also wanted to try that feature and all that stuff. So what's your thoughts on that?
I can share the experience with Board of Innovation. We have been always like, this is a 15 years old company, which is a baby in the industry, let's say, but this is still a lot of time to test and learn. We have a tool stack we have a lot of tools and we tested every month. We tested probably 5 new tools, and we incorporate. It's true that we initially assess what is really giving us the opportunity to generate revenue or to impact the revenue, because there are tools that reduce the time, for example, that you spend doing a task, and that you can use that time in another parts of the journey, or there is one in a specific that can help you a lot to bring new services that you didn't have before. So that exploration in the case of business of board of innovation has been absolutely important for us to protect our business core, which is providing to our clients the best available methods and frameworks to generate and to adopt AI and to create innovation, which is basically what we do. It's true that represent an investment because testing tools it could be expensive. I don't know the rate of tools that we keep in our tool stack after we test it, but the ones that we keep it now are part of our day-to-day life. The best example I can give you is we love, in this moment we are using a lot one that is called Relevance AI, which is an AI like agents orchestrating system. You can generate multiple agents, connect them, interact with them, and make them create pipeline systems, etc. The first time we tested, we already knew that that was going to be part of many of our frameworks, so we adopted it in that aspect, and it was an investment for sure. But nowadays we use it and sell it multiple times in our projects. And that happened with multiple tools. So now we are using, for example, Replit to generate prototypes, and it's impressive how Replit works. Like really, really, really impressive. So my thoughts basically are: I think you should really do it because it's expensive, but it's not that expensive. There are free trials. There are, you can even just pay for 1 month. There are a lot of CAS services that you can test and check if it is really worth it to apply into your business core. But for sure, once you find the tools that you need, you will see that the adoption will have implications in your business operations. So go for it for sure. It's the easy way to apply AI in your services. We done it every day, and we see the impact. So I'm sure every company that does that will see the difference.
Yes, definitely. If you don't try, you won't even know like is this good or not, right? So
Mm,
it's always worth trying with the free
yeah.
trials, 1 month. Yeah, definitely. Do you also look into? I'm just curious. Like, since you mentioned about BOI, do you also look into ROI, like return on investment? Because we talk about investment or expense, but the other side of the coin of investment is also the return of investment. So is that
Yeah.
something that you guys are also looking into, or even your clients or you personally?
Yeah. I think if you don't, like, companies that don't do that are like in a really immature stage of adopting whatever, not only AI. Like ROI is the essence of business. So it's super important that we do it. It's true that during the adoption of a specific tool, for example, or framework, we are learning how to use it, so we don't put that much pressure on it in the initial stage of adoption. But once we are using it in, like, iteratively in multiple projects, for example, for sure we look at it. We are now working a lot with social listening, for example. It's something we call agentic social listening, that nowadays for Board of Innovation has become a business unit. So it's a unit that uses artificial intelligence to perform social listening using agents, etc. But for us, it's a business unit. So we need to make that unit profitable for the business. So we take a look at every component, and we are trying to shorten times, improve the quality of the deliverable, etc. And for example, on that one, I'm the responsible one, and I am looking at all the time how many times we are doing agentic social listening. It's generating revenue. Is this tool too expensive? How we can tweak the price? Shall we go for a higher for a better subscription, for example, to reduce costs? I don't know. So it's just the essence of business. So for sure, I really recommend you take a look at it. Otherwise, the implementation will not be wise, because you will not do business. You do applications, but not necessarily represent revenue. And in my perspective, business wise, you need to do it always. Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty interesting. And that's true. That's true. All the businesses essentially they will look at the ROI, which is normal, but not all businesses will look at ROI in the same lens. What do I
Mhm.
mean by that? Like some ROI they look at what is the revenue that when they can take back that investment, which is the the normal way to see ROI, right?
Yeah.
What about other things like other components? Like it could be time, saving time, or maybe efficiency, productivity. Are those, or maybe something else? Are those also one of the metrics that you will be personally, or maybe board of innovations would look at it into ROI, or what's your opinion?
I think people is obsessed with reducing time or cost. That's the two always KPIs to look at. And when people think about AI or automation, they say both of them: reduce cost, or reduce the time spent in a specific task, like increase the speed. I will say it's true that those are the business core KPIs, let's say, when you are applying a technology like artificial intelligence. But for example, me personally, what I'm doing quite a lot in the frameworks that I own in Board of Innovation, for example, is to be sure that the quality of the outputs protects Board of Innovation value proposition. So facing clients, I always want to be sure that what I am delivering keeps a level of quality and a level of let's, for example, when I deliver insights, I do always my best to deliver the best of the best. I measure that qualitatively in the conversations with the client and being how the output really impacted a business decision, for example, because that's the business of like the core of our business. But in this moment, my philosophy is to look at that because if we protect that, I am sure that I will find ways to efficient the cost and efficient the time. I'm not that obsessed with that one, but it's true that, for example, when I'm working with other managers, it's important to keep an eye on it. But in this moment, for example, when I'm doing agentic social listening, I want to be sure that the output of agentic social listening is excellent and didn't took that much time or effort compared to other frameworks. I don't know, running a survey, for example, because I want that. I want to be easy. I want to people to even enjoy it and to have the possibility to see examples, golden nuggets of the best. So I'm in this moment refining the value of doing such thing, and I put more attention on that than reducing time and cost. But I have been in meetings where my managers say, "Okay, can you reduce the cost or reduce the time you spent on it?" So I have been in both. I have been also in meetings with clients that they say this is amazing, and I have been in sessions with my managers when I need to find ways to reduce the investment we do in such technologies. But in this moment, what I look at the most is the value I generate with those.
Yeah, that's very valuable. I think getting things done with a lesser time, I think, in my opinion, is also very much, I would say, results driven, and as well as more on the productivity level. And I'm just curious, you mentioned about something important earlier. It's about decision making, right? And I know that AI have capabilities right now. There are tools that can help you make critical decisions, like not just data driven decisions, but also more of an intelligent decisions. Is that, are those also some of the things that are valuable to you, or to probably to any business, or to board of innovations?
You mean
What do you think?
AI making decisions, right?
not
Like,
not not necessarily directly. It could be directly, but it could be something more of, it could simplify and make you make decisions faster, more
yeah,
clear. Like, imagine you have a lot of data. You have a, let's say, as you mentioned, like there's a survey, or there's this research, like the social listening you mentioned about, and sometimes those are data, right? With a lot of data, it's very difficult to crunch right away. And with technology, with AI, with generative AI, if that's one of the component that could move the needle of your business, and we're talking about going back to the investment part, right? The return of investment. So we do have components like return of investment, about revenue generating, more time, more productivity. But what about those decision making features, I would say, or features, advantages for the tool? Is it
yeah.
something that is also critical in any tool that you would invest, in your opinion?
To be honest, I have not been playing a lot in the decision making, like working with features that perform some such thing. I think nowadays, for example, it's super easy to generate autonomous dashboards, for example, which in the old times that was the dream. That before that you needed to call an SQL that can pull the data from the database, then given to Power BI, generate. Nowadays, with a simple, like a couple of prompts, you are able to perform all that task and print a dashboard and do your own analytics, let's say, based on of what you want. I have not been like quite a lot involved in that one. I have been involved a lot recently in the generation of agents that can perform autonomous decisions. Imagine if hallucinations is a problem. Imagine what what an autonomous decision represents for a business maker. You know that's a big deal. Like, are you relying a bigness component in an agent that is taking decision for you or for a specific unit of your company? So I have been playing more in that aspect recently than, like, for example, in the autonomous generation of decision data, etc. But it's true that with other frameworks that we have, like, for example, agentic social listening, yes, we end up using the data for decision making with our clients. But I also consider this data-driven decisions also being part of the 2010, because we have been talking about the, data-driven decisions like quite a lot of time. Now I'm in this moment. I'm putting a lot of attention in autonomous decisions with the agents. I see that's the future. Agentic decisions that they are capable of performing some specific actions that belong to humans. At the moment, I am considering that to be a business, an important part of the future. I'm putting a lot of attention. And Board of Innovation is putting a lot of attention there now.
Yeah, that's in my opinion, I think that's very valuable, which is not all companies can do as of the moment, right? But
Yeah.
we don't know what's gonna happen next month. But
Yeah.
I think that's also a critical features where an autonomous decision making can be done. So I think in any business or in any thing that you do in any business, there's always a decision to make, whether it's internal, whether it's for your customers. The customers will be the one to decide what will they buy or not, or is it product A, B, C, right? But for internal, it's more like market strategies. Would I use this insights that I've gathered, and this is what I'm recommending to you? So I think in the olden times, what we do is there is this kind of craze about personalized decisions or recommendations. But right now, it's more about going the next level deeper into decision making. So we can automate that decision making, or maybe we could just get recommendations with AI, which is much more AI driven, data driven. Data driven, that was the term that we used before, but now it's AI driven. So it has more context about what to recommend, what to make decisions from. So that was more of the angle that was kind of curious about, since you're in that field, you're in that area, whether you're talking it to your customers. Do they value that as a kind of like a return of investment as well, in your opinion?
Yeah. I will say yes. Like, a big difference that I have seen so far is that nowadays creating simulations is easier. So you can create multiple simulations of a decision using AI. That, in my opinion, that sometimes is overthinking or over simulating, but it's true that it's interesting to see what happens if you modify one element. It's like, what happens if I tweak or modify this aspect of my decision, so you see multiple outcomes. And you can do that simulation easily with AI. Not only with generative AI, you can do that even with machine learning or deep learning algorithms. But nowadays it's easier to see that. So for decision makers, I think definitely, if you are about to do an important decision, yeah, it is really worth it to use it. I'm probably sure that you will be more inclined towards your intuition as a business person, and I consider that's good, because you need to match both of them. But also, I have seen a lot of like, especially in the big corporates, where those brains are being generated, those engines that contain all the information of the company. That will be an important tools for the decision makers, because they will have easy access to data, to like a lot of components of the company that before that they needed to set multiple sessions to gather the information, etc. So I would say that impact on the return on investment will happen for sure. I will say that is not 100% happening now, but I think it will be part of the future. I don't consider there are a lot of decisions that are being taken nowadays based on AI purely, but I know and I consider they will be part of the big decisions in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very valuable, because when we're talking about earlier about innovations, it's also one of the critical phase which we need to make a decision, right? We're innovating something, but is this the right decision? So that's
Mhm.
kind of like also the area where can we use AI to help us, not only when we create a product or solution, we also let the market tell us, is that something that they need, they want. So when we're innovating something, whether it's a business is a new or a new renovated revamped business, a new brand name or whatever it is, just to fit into the wave of AI, right? Surfing the AI wave.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's I think decision making is very much, in my opinion, maybe one of the critical things that AI could leverage. We can utilize AI and we can leverage what AI can do, but currently the hype is more into the automations, as you said, right?
Mhm.
and and there are still gray areas where nobody has touched upon, like really deep.
Yeah. So,
What do you think about that?
could you please say it again?
What do you think about that opinion? I mean, that's my opinion about decision making. Decision making in any business is critical, but really to leverage that decision making function, is that something critical to any business in the future? Because we have AI, we have
Hmm.
we have the languages, and
I
that can be
think,
obsolete easily. But do you think a decision making AI tool, is that something that would be critical or significant?
yeah, I think every company, I have been working with the startups, with big corporates, with mid-sized company. Like I have been in probably all the companies spectrum recently. All companies have different levels of or different frameworks to take decisions. So, for example, some of them do market research. Some of them consider market research as something like useful, like something that you should not do, and you should trust your business intuition. Some of them create like sandbox that in specific markets that they perform tests there. Some of them they just do it because they just take decisions because the decision they have in front is like obvious, for example. So all of them that have different decision making cultures. With AI, what I have seen so far is an increase of the different methods of or frameworks to make simulations, for example. So, for example, you can simulate how a market will adopt a specific product in Chile or in Brazil, for example, without doing a survey, without doing, you can synthetically generate like the simulation. You can create agents. And I know companies, for example, that are creating a mimic of their local markets with the same behavior with multiple variables. But the idea is that they can put, for example, new products and test with that market, with that synthetic market, what is the reaction or what will be the reaction. That's a new framework to take decisions. So you are giving again tools to your culture based on what you usually do to take decisions. It's like enhancing and adding new methods, new methodologies, not only the classical, I don't know, Bank Westerlo test or Gabor Granger or whatever. You have now multiple possibilities. And now the scientific ecosystem, it's doing and releasing a lot of papers for not only decision making, but a lot of for decision making, for example, with synthetic data or simulation of scenarios that for sure will have an impact on it. So I definitely see as one of the most important applications of AI for for decision makers. Indeed.
Wow, that's awesome. You've given me more examples about like how people or companies make decisions. That's interesting. And if let's just say hypothetically, right, we're talking about if a business owner is just starting with AI, right? What are the this probably the quickest, easiest AI driven improvements they can make to any company, whether they're a tech company to any industry that you can maybe use an example.
Well, the easiest is to give or to buy a GPT subscription, an OpenAI subscription. You can consider others. Like if you are a fan of, I don't know, Anthropic, or if you are in Europe and you want to taste, I don't know, test Mistral, I don't know. Like find one of the one of the big houses. Nowadays it's like Howard's. Howard's is OpenAI. Anthropic is Slytherin. I don't know. So find your house and give access to their tools to your stuff. That's like the minimum basic. And I know a lot of companies that have not done that and they're using like the free services. The problem with OpenAI is that they are doing like subscription method. So the higher you pay, like the better features you unlock. And the problem with that is that probably you are not using the best models just because you are not paying for it. So the easiest is that one. It's just to give and get access to the powerful tools, and the more powerful tool at the moment is something like OpenAI. I wouldn't say it's the only one, but for sure in this moment is an important one. DeepSeek was an important hype recently, but it's true that it's open source, it's different, it's a different application. So just find the one that you consider is good for your IT environment and give access if you have not done that. But if you have not done that, probably you are not even hearing this podcast. It will be so surprising. But I know a lot of people that have not, that they just have yeah. It's important that you plan a human resources strategy. I consider that's something that companies are underestimating. Mm-hmm. Human resources will play probably the biggest role of AI adoption in the mid and long term, because they are responsible of designing the people strategy, and they will have now superhumans. Like they will have users that are capable of creating amazing images, but also performing data analytics at the same time, because they are like a good prompter, someone with, that's people that is 360 and really good at doing multiple things. Those have superpowers, but that's impacting also how you structure the people strategy of your company. So it's really super relevant that you sit down with your, your chief people officer or your human resources head, etc., and start to design what will be those shifts or changes you need to apply in the short term to guarantee the long term is protected with the people you have, and taking in consideration that now the professionals will have more skills or better capabilities. Do you need less? Do you need more? That's an important question, and people don't think about it now. And human resources will be, so sometimes people don't even think that the human resources team should be specializing themselves in AI people management, like understanding what is going to change. So that's relevant. The IT for sure is like a CEO normally talks with the IT guy to design the strategy. So that's also most, but that will be the setting up, like what will be our technology. Shall we be open source? Shall we include, subscriptions, etc.? And then I will say that doing again that strategy plannings of, for example, running Canvas, etc., or mapping your operations and know where you put generative AI, and just do a couple of tests. I for sure, if you have the resources, will probably hire a consultants that are experts in helping companies to transition to AI. I consider that important also because they have the big picture, and understanding the big picture is essential for the implementation of AI. I would say those are my top. Like those something that I for sure will do if I am starting with AI. Especially
go ahead.
No, especially the human resources. I think is applicable not only for those that are starting, but it's super relevant for every company, and it's really I have seen a lot of underestimation there.
Yeah, that's very amazing, because when not just when you implement AI, you still need humans to use AI, right? So the critical components is also the humans who are using AI. So unless if you're like a solopreneur that you're running a company on your own, which it's also a very a critical thing to manage everything, right? If your business size is big. But if we're talking about enterprise, medium-sized businesses, yes, as you said, as you mentioned, I think having the human resources is very critical, and also the IT team, whether it's a CDO or an IT manager who can probably help you map out the tech stack that you can create. And human resources is something very broad. It's an area where it's a wide range of challenges, where right now we're talking in the phase where we are evolving the job responsibilities. Like there are a revamp of what are the needs of any business. And because if you don't have AI skills, that could be probably critical for anyone in the future. So since we're talking about those, the quickest for them, like a low hanging fruit, let's go with AI business, probably sustainability, right? So how can any AI help businesses become more resilient for economic downturns? Like, for example, we recently have, I mean, not recently, that was a few years ago, COVID. We have a pandemic. We have a few things going on, market changes, like political or anything that affects any economy, or even workforce challenges. Like, how can AI help businesses become more resilient in those
Hmm.
situations?
That's a tough one. It's such a curveball because it's difficult because it depends on the industry. In the old times, I would say again, 2010, the dream was to have a SaaS, like a SaaS, software as a service company. That was the big dream for every company or any entrepreneur, is to have something that can generate revenue if you are not even working on it and just with a low maintenance. Probably we will see a lot of agents as a service in the future. So jumping from software as a services to agents as a service. And it's most likely also that companies will generate autonomous business units that can operate with low maintenance, which is a business dream. It's just having a unit that can operate without really investing a lot of money in maintaining, and we can have like an engine that is regenerating revenue. It sounds really difficult to do and to achieve. You really need to innovate in that aspect, but that's probably one of the ways in which business will evolve, especially because future is agentic. For sure, that's not even like a opinion. That's something that is a must, and that will happen. The future it's going to be agentic, and agents. I'm sure that you can perform business unit that can autonomously operate or operate with human loop interventions, but minor interventions. So that could help your business to survive, moments when you need to be more resilient. Again, it's changing a little bit the paradox, changing from software as a service again to AI as a service to agents as a service. And we will see that happening in the coming months, years. And probably a lot of companies will have that as part of the business core, and that will support them in the tough times. Yeah. We need to be
Mhm.
regulations, of course. We need to be, because imagine an economy that is full of autonomous AI agent business units. Know the impact of that on a country economy with such system, especially from the employment perspective. But I will say that that's like the easy answer nowadays for that question. And again, the future is we will see those business units for sure.
I'm sure there will be changes. There will be much changes when that time comes. And you're right. You're right. Something like a model similar to a SaaS, agent as a service. Those are very critical as a business model that we can also model
Yeah.
to be able to really survive. Not only survive, but even through the economic downturn, tough times. It's kind of like we used to have a term called COVID proof. So probably we can use to call this future proof
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
So scalable, and whatever the economy, it's not going to be affected so much.
Yeah. Indeed.
So let's go with we talk about the decision making earlier, sustainability. We talk about the investment, low hanging fruits. Let's talk about maybe AI and job evolution, right? Many fear AI to replace jobs. What's your perspective on how AI is creating new opportunities rather than like just eliminating those roles?
I think it will be both. I think there are jobs that will disappear for sure. And I know it sounds sad, but it's reality. I mean, it will happen, and I think that's something that you should face, and that probably if your job is highly susceptible to be performed by AI, it will. I think, for example, translator. I know that it's like a sad example, but it's nowadays when you think in a translator, probably you think directly in AI, in OpenAI, because it's easy for you to do that. Before OpenAI, that was not possible. But it's true that will generate new opportunities. I'm curious to know what exactly opportunities. For example, I have seen nowadays a lot of companies interested in agents trainers. So people, for example, that can take the task that an agent is doing and is capable of perform by its own. So it's like if you were the assistant to an agent or the other way around. So the agent is performing like a lot of autonomous parts, but in the loop design there is an important human component, and that's where you enter to add your brain and to add your value. That's quite popular in, for example, in HCPs, in healthcare related things. But I am sure that that will also happen with a lot of professions, is that many things will perform with agents, by agents, but we will have more humans involved in the loops. Where, I don't know, it really depends on the industry. In the short term, what I'm sure we will be doing is training the agents and taking tasks they are unable to perform. That's already happening. So you, for example, have an agent that is creating a software for you. When the agent is incapable of solving the bug, boom, there is a human that intervenes. Or if it's incapable of understanding if the UX is really well performed, boom, there is a human that intervenes. But all the systems, for example, of the code generation, of the deployment, etc., is performed by the agent. But it's the human that intervenes and then supports that process. And I see that's the future of employment in the in many aspects, because that will happen for sure. Agents will replace a lot of the activities. I don't know if jobs, which is the difference. A lot of the activities we do, the jobs will become more, let's say, AI integrated. I will say another example that is quite popular is radiologists, for example, because there are a lot of models that can recognize images and detect, I don't know, specific diseases in the x-rays, for example, that's like a task of radiologist. But nowadays the models are getting super sensible to that kind of thing, so it's most likely that all the analysis of the images will be performed by the AI, and then the radiologist will give a check or help with the diagnostic. But the initial check probably will be performed by agents, and agents that are specialized for specific diseases, so they can score, etc. So they will not replace jobs. They will probably replace tasks, but that will also have an impact in the human resources structures. That's what I was saying. That is super important to work on that units of the business. Yeah, did I answer your question? I think it's
Yeah,
one of the most important
it
topics
does.
of nowadays. How that will impact the future. Yeah.
It's definitely is gonna impact, and as you mentioned about agentic, that's probably the, I wouldn't say, maybe the next wave that is coming. And do you, I'm just curious about your thoughts about, how we train models, how we use, even putting a knowledge into models, giving instructions and all that stuff. As and you mentioned this earlier in the podcast, you mentioned about we can improve AI and as we go along, but we need to fine tune it. When you need to fine tune something, it needs testing, it needs time, right? And
Mhm.
do you think this is also an opportunity for one person, like a superhuman, that can also take that role? And is that a critical role in your opinion?
Yeah. Nowadays, it has an important technical component. Like if you want to do fine tuning, requires technical knowledge or understanding of what exactly you're fine tuning and what are the parameters, the parameters that you can tweak, etc. So nowadays, it has a important technical component. It's true that in the future, probably that fine tuning will be easier and more with a better user experience that doesn't require that fine tuning, and then humans can intervene on, like, again, in the training of the systems. And I consider that for sure will happen. I think the dream of the artificial intelligence generators at the moment is that they have models that are plastic, so that you can train by your own easily, because that's the level of AI adoption that the big, like, companies like OpenAI want. They want you to give you like a plastic element that you can tweak and modify based on what you want to do. You nowadays can do that with custom GPTs, for example, and that's quite old. That's 7 months old, or something like that. But that was a big change, because it was possible for you to instruct in the prompt system how you want the agent or the GPT model to behave based on whatever you want to do. And companies have been doing and applying that for multiple things, like adapting the tone of voice, the brand image, etc. I am sure that in the short-term future, with models like GPT-5, the plasticity of how humans can model the full structure of those models will be easier. So yes, for sure, I'm sure that the humans will definitely adapt that plasticity to their actions, to whatever they want to those models to perform. So it's also that will happen for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. That's awesome. So, well, it's been a wonderful podcast. It's been a wonderful time with you. And of course, we're about to come to an end, unfortunately, having this fruitful, interesting conversation with you. We're just looking ahead, right? Like, it's like the next big AI leap. And maybe, maybe from your thoughts is what are some of the AI breakthroughs or advancement that businesses should be preparing for right now? So if they wanted to really be future proof, what are the areas or where are the AI breakthroughs that you think advancements that businesses should be going for?
There's so many things that will happen and are happening now. I will list some of them. So regulation for sure will come. So we know, for example, that Europe it's being not so flexible in many aspects, and that will impact many business units. So regulation for sure, you can expect many changes or shift of directions there. What we were mentioning before, the plasticity of the model, so the possibility for you to adapt them, that's for sure also an important feature. Agents, if you have not been playing with agents, I really recommend you to do it. I mean, your audience, like, it's really important for you to understand what exactly it is, because it will shape the future of your business. And in this moment, they are not fully autonomous, that probably they will be autonomous for many things, and you need to start to understand how they will impact your business. We will have the transition of, not the transition, but the marriage of hardware and software. So we will see those big models being merged with hardware and performing a really an important task, because they will have like a body to perform things. So that will probably impact manufacturing or many other elements. So it's important that you are aware of that, and that's not so far away. We have seen a lot of important developments there, and we probably will break the screens. Now our experience with computers again are clicks and windows. And if you consider that's rudimentary, probably we will pass from text commands to voice commands, or people say that in the future mental commands. I see that a little bit like long term, but that will also happen for sure. Multimodalities, for example, not only being perfect with text, but the image recognition, etc. So there are so many elements that will impact the business. I consider those that I listed, for example, some of the most vibrant ones. For example, there is one, I don't remember the name in English, but it's like the bees, the animal, the bees. When they live in a colmena, is in Spanish, a beehive maybe.
Beehive, yeah. Mhm.
Beehive, yeah. AI will also perform like beehives. So having one that is controlling sub AIs, and the business and the big corporates, for example, will have a center, like a headquarter with the beehives, with different business units connected. That for sure will also happen. That's already happening in the papers. And it's so many things. Maybe titles for other podcasts.
Yeah, we might definitely have another episode together. There's so many as you mentioned agents, right? Agents, there's so many agents right now. Automations is just kind of like the vehicle, but agents is more like the they have their own instructions in every agent. They could be a supervisor and all those stuff, right?
Yeah,
Which, as you said, like you can have an orchestration of the task for you,
yeah,
and which that would be much more higher level than automations for sure, right?
yeah,
But then again, there's also a fine tuning to be done as well if you're going to build that kind of automation.
yeah.
So it's been interesting, and it's I'm also learning from you, Leo, and I'm really happy to have this podcast, and I'm sure that our audience will love this podcast. So thank you very much. And so just one more, just to close this, is if a business leader listening today still believes AI isn't necessary for their success, which one thing you'd say to to change their minds?
I consider they should prepare for bankrupt. No, maybe I'm not kidding. I consider you will be hit by the wave for sure, because this is a technology that is here to stay. It's not just only a hype. It's not like NFTs. No, no, no. This is something relevant for humanity. If you don't adopt it, and you have been static, it's like if you are not literally moving forward, and it's probably like you are moving backwards, like you are not advancing, because it's not like, the hell is for static people. You cannot just stay and look at what is happening around. You really need to take decisions and adopt it, even in the surface level. You will be surprised for the multiple things that you can unlock. So I really, really invite you to do it. I don't know, call Justin, call Board of Innovation, make people, like, surround people, like, find people that can help you to do that transition, even if it's not a big transition, even if it's just like a small tweaks of your operations. That's fine. You will see that starting with it is essential, and you will unlock a lot of value. If not, I will say be prepared for bankrupt. I know it sounds fatalist, but I really believe it. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that, Leo. And just to recap, we have learned from you like the business impact, adapting, and we were so interested about your story. We talk about cost versus opportunity, also the competitive advantage for AI, and how we won't fall behind because of AI. So,
Mhm.
so much things. And I'm even thinking about having another one with you because you have so much wisdom to give to our audience. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And it's been an honor to host this podcast with you.
Thank you, Justin.
So if let's say the audience would want to follow you, where is the best place for them to follow?
I think LinkedIn at the moment is the only platform, or yeah, other than that, I don't have any. Or Board of Innovation. You can also follow Board of Innovation, and you will find me there for sure. I'm doing multiple things in Board of Innovation. So follow Board of Innovation, and follow me in LinkedIn. That will be the best. And ping me, send me a message, and I'm happy to reply.
All right. I will for sure put the link so that they can follow you. I think that the link is very long, so it's difficult to say it over the podcast. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so thank you for watching Future Proof Talks, Future Proof Leaders for Future Proof Businesses. So subscribe and rate the episode, and of course share. And I'll see
Awesome.
you on the next one.
Bye bye.